Like cooking, everything has a recipe.
A set of instructions to follow in order to gain a certain result.
Music is no different.
Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show,
Or a release strategy for a successful launch.
these are all recipes.
Hi, we're your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Come and join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Makers Cookbook.
Let's get cooking.
Welcome to the Music Makers Cookbook, the podcast that helps independent artists cook up recipes for success in the music industry. I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to be talking about SEO.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is the big one. We've been talking about it and promising it for the last at least dozen so episodes.
It's been a long time. It's been on the books for a minute now. Books. I know Sean's just giddy.
Oh,
right
yeah.
now.
Every time we bring up SEO, I'm like, and it's a big topic, and I'm excited to talk about it. And today's finally that day.
Yay.
So there's going to be a little bit of energy coming into it. If you're not familiar with SEO, just real quick, it's an acronym. It stands for Search Engine Optimization. And basically what it is, it's a way of creating your content in a way that search engines find appealing or find helpful. It provides value in a way that search engines want to rank it higher, which helps with their visibility, helps them give better content to people who are searching for these things, and then helps them make more money through advertisers and whatnot. That's a real quick, basic, bare bones definition.
Yeah, if you're in front of a computer right now, take some kind of piece of software that you're looking for, just the category of software, right? So if you're looking for a CRM, like you just listened to that episode or something, just type in top CRMs and you will see a rank of pages that come up. And whoever's at the top has typically the best seat. And they've done this through a variety of different ways. And we're going to go over those ways today. But yeah, it's a very important topic to talk about. I find it as a kind of unsexy topic because there's so much that goes into it and can be super laborious and like banging your head against the wall, you know, because like you don't get instantaneous results. Sometimes this accumulates over time.
It can take a couple days or it can take a couple of months, depending on your change, depending on the cycle that the Google or whatever search engine is being displayed on. They update their indexing and whatnot. So it's definitely a long game.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the sake of peace of mind, we're going to be referring to Google in this one. Yeah. Not Bing, not Yahoo, nothing like that. We don't know their SEO as well as we do with
not
Google.
OperaGX, not DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, exactly. There are also some other search engines, though, that are included in this, I would say, too, though, because there are some search engines that you might not think are search engines. Sean, you have some more info on that.
I do, yeah. So a search engine is just any sort of thing that's created, an interface that's created to get a customer or a person looking for certain information directed and to a most valuable specific result. This means that Amazon is a search engine, and it functions very similar to how Google does. It has top-rated stuff, Amazon recommended right near the top, but there's always usually a sponsored product that's listed within that mix. And that's how they get their money, from having an optimized and really functioning search engine. Another search engine that we're all familiar with is Spotify or Apple Music. They need to be able to pull up the most relevant music for whatever someone is searching in, whatever the keywords, which we're going to dive into, that are being typed by the person searching. They need to pull up the most relevant music, the most relevant playlists, the podcast episodes that relate to it. So if you type in CRM for music or just CRM, like what's a CRM, it potentially will pull up our last episode that we recorded, and episode 49, and because it's a valuable podcast episode for any artist who's looking to dive into CRMs and manage their relationships better. It's way more beneficial for them to do that than to bring up something that's completely unrelated. Because if it brings up something completely unrelated, you're no longer going to use that search engine.
Right.
Like for the best example I can think of off the top of my head is if you are looking to restring your guitar and you've never done it before, and maybe you want to look up a tutorial on how to restring your guitar. If they pull up results of how to change your drum heads, and that's the first thing you see, it doesn't serve you. That's not valuable to you.
Yeah.
So they're no longer going to get your business because you're going to switch to a different search engine that when you type in restring your guitar, how to restring your guitar, which brings me to the final non-search engine that I want to bring up, and that's YouTube, which is actually the second largest search engine in the world. And it functions very similar to Google, where it has to present the most beneficial videos right off the top to keep people on the platform and engaged. And then beyond that, they have the sponsorship, the sidebar ads, the top bar ads, whatever. But that's the purpose of a search engine.
Yeah, and if you've been a YouTube user for a while, like I have, you can definitely tell and decipher how different YouTube is today than it was like years ago, right? Because like a lot of the time it pulls up a lot of the same videos, like the most relevant videos to the topic, and then when you scroll down, it'll also like be like, oh, other things you should explore too, right? So all of these are always changing, and like we talked about with the social media episode, you're playing by other people's rules at this point, right? So you need to stay on top of that and be able to make sure that you're adaptive to those rules because you need to stay relevant, right? This helps with leads. This helps with opportunities. This helps with more fans. This helps with more money. This helps with everything with your online presence. It's extremely important that you try to nail your SEO and keep up on top of it as much as you can. And I'm really speaking to myself because I don't, right? And it's just very time consuming. And like anything that's time consuming, of course you could hire out for this, but that's going to be very monetarily consuming as well. So just learning how to do it basically by yourself can definitely save you some headache and maybe garner some more opportunities in the future for you.
Yeah, just the purpose of this episode is for you to understand what SEO is, why it's important, how it impacts you as an independent artist, and some basic steps you can do to get yourself up a leg above the competition and kind of start getting your name out there in a way that you actually show up in these search engines. But speaking to your fact of the fact that it's constantly changing and evolving, I believe in March, Google just updated their SEO formula and how it works on their platform. Now, a lot of these places will never tell creators the exact methods that they use. I think I've heard quotes that in some situations, these platforms themselves don't really know exactly how it works.
Yeah,
but
I would believe that. I'd believe it.
But this is why you always hear creators say like, oh, the algorithm this, the algorithm that.
Right.
So that is a part of SEO, but we're going to dive into the difference between what the algorithm is and how SEO functions as a whole. Because the algorithm it exists, but it's just a part of the whole search engine platform and how it functions to give relevant information to people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to make a quick distinguishing factor before we move on any further ahead.
Yeah, dive into it.
A lot of SEO that we're talking about here does not include paid ads, right? A lot of SEO is mostly organic traffic, although paid ads can play a factor, I think, into SEO as a whole. But I just want to make sure that we're not going to be talking about a lot of paid ads today. That's not really the center of the topic, but it might be mentioned later in the episode. I think you had something that you wrote down later in the episode that I saw, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is mostly organic traffic that you're trying to drive to your page.
Correct. And when I've dove deep into it, the two things that it really looks for to drive that organic search results are relevance and engagement. These are the two main points that you can optimize for search engines to put your content towards the top and make it high ranking. And really what ties back to the content, what links are coming from or to it. Now, Google said in the last update that links are still important, but not as important as they once were, but it still ties it together. Like, who is talking about this piece of content you've created? What outside links are coming to it? Are people talking about it? Is it positive? Is it negative? Are there reviews? What is the relevance of this information? How recent is it? What other studies is it tied to? What links are coming out from it? And is it something that's currently happening and is currently valuable?
Yeah.
That's partially why you see, like, if you look up what interface should I use or what microphone should I use or whatnot when you're deciding what things you should be getting for your band or whatnot, a lot of times the creators will have best guitars 2024, best interfaces 2024. It's the attempt to put a date on it that makes it relevant to the time period that everyone is looking at. Yeah. The other thing is in engagement, and that is how many people are looking at it for how long. It can track, especially if there's Google Analytics built into the page, which most pages do. It can track where the mouses are going, what links it's clicking on, how long it stays on the page.
Yep.
All those cookies. Yep. And then like on platforms like YouTube, are people leaving comments? Are they watching throughout the whole period of the song? If they're only listening to the first 6 seconds and then clicking off the song, then that's not very high engagement and it's not going to promote it. Whereas if on average someone listens to on average they listen to 60% of the song, then they're going to promote it to more people because it is something that is getting high engagement. So those are the main two factors that you need to keep in mind when creating any sort of content. And this, just a real quick throw into how it can apply to independent artists, is this is really important for when you make any sort of promotional material, music video, content, anything around your music, promoting a show, your merch, whatever it is. try to make it as relevant and engaging as possible so that people stick around, watch as much of it as possible, have high engagement, and that's how the algorithm is like, oh yeah, this is relevant. This is good.
Yeah, it all leads to better results with the SEO. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to shoot to the top of the list. You're competing with a lot of different people's online presence right now, right? And it's a very crowded market, and Google has a lot of work to do on its back end determining who's going to be at the top, who's the top dog here. But I want to illustrate 3 different things that we've already talked about in the influencer series and how these are working in here.
Real quick before you do, I just want to say that another system of relevance is consistency. If you are consistently posting these things, then in its mind and these search engines, you are relevant. So I just want to say that's the last thing that ties into it. Anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. And this goes to staying top of mind, right? Without necessarily having to invest monetarily. That is massive because it will save you time and money because you can throw a lot of money at ads and not get anywhere very fast. And you will have to spend a lot of money on ads to even make them work in the first place. Like if you're throwing $5-10 there, I think Brian says it on Six Figure Creative. He calls it the donate to Mark Zuckerberg button on Facebook because if you're just paying $5-10, that's not going to do shit for you, right? You have to actually put a serious monetary investment in it and know exactly where your target market is and who your target demographic is.
And when you start, you're going to lose money because
absolutely.
you don't have that data that showcases, oh, these are my target fans. This is where they live.
Yeah. And then you have assholes like me who see an ad and I'm like, I know they're paying for this, so I'm going to click on it like 4 times to spend it.
You've done that?
I've done it before.
For what companies?
Well, for specific products I don't like. So I'll just like click on it and like use up their budget for the marketing. Yeah, I'm a little savage sometimes.
Like what kind of products?
I'll like plugin stuff sometimes. If it's like a get rich quick kind of plugin or doesn't really add value in my opinion, then I will do that a couple times just to be like an asshole.
Yeah, because there are false information, sponsorship places. There are scams and stuff out there.
Yeah.
So okay,
I won't do that for everybody. That's not fair. No, I don't have the time to do that. But
it's not like you get a Universal audio ad. No, I can't afford this. Waste their money.
Exactly. I'm gonna make you spend money right now, right? And then the second one helps build and sustain previously released social proofing for you and your brand. Social proof is massive. This will only help reinforce it. And not only that, but this actually ties into the next one that I want to talk about too, which is helps bolster authority. So when people search for you and you come up on the list, right, or something related to you, and then you pop up on the list as well, that demonstrates good authority in the field and an online presence. So people are more likely to click on that, right? Because let's be honest, nobody's going to the second page on Google most of the time. I've gone to maybe the 4th page, but that was for academic reasons too, right? But let's be honest, the average user is probably not going to the second page. And usually that second page means scrolling a little bit more because they've changed it on mobile at least. So I just want to demonstrate those 3 things happening. So if you want to hear more about those things, you can go back to the influencer series. Do you know what episodes we did the influencers between the range?
37 to 42.
37 to 42. Look out for social proof, authority, and then what was the other one I just said? I guess staying top of mind kind of.
It's kind of social.
Social proofing. Yeah, pretty much. So social proof and authority you can go back to, and SEO definitely helps demonstrate those characteristics for sure.
If you can utilize the levels of influence, then you can be more productive in your whatever content you're creating to show up more consistently in SEO.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you brought up the authority thing, and that's kind of goes back to exactly how many people are tagging back to you, what sources are you tagging out to, but also, as I mentioned right before you did your 3 things, the consistency of it. If you are consistently showing up and talking about the subject, then in the eyes of the search engine, you are more of an authoritative figure because it's not just a one and done thing. Like I've made a really good title that has really good tags, that's really good thumbnail, that's going to get people to click on it. It's like, nope, they've been doing this for a year or 2 or 5. So obviously there's something behind what they're talking about.
Absolutely.
Not just a one and done situation.
Absolutely. At this point, SEO almost feels like your social credit score again. This is like another aspect of it because like you said, the timing factor, a lot goes into it. Like you have to have a lot of content out for a long time and keep consistent and fresh on that. And that will eventually build up your bank of your social credit score online. And I'm not really talking about maybe the social media aspect necessarily, although that does play a factor into it.
Ties back.
I'm just talking about the SEO side of it. So I know we've used social credit score before in the social media aspect, but now we're using it in terms of the online presence aspect.
Yeah. Moving on, I just want to also talk about, we've talked about the benefits of using it, kind of how it works, but mainly like what kind of content what sort of things you should be aware of when creating content to rank high on SEO, but we haven't really dove into exactly how SEO works on these platforms and exactly how these platforms work to find valuable and relevant content for the person searching it. So basically what search engines will do is, and by the way, these aren't technical terms I'm using. This is a kind of a beginner's SEO course. We're using it in layman's terms, one, so that we can more effectively communicate it, and it just makes it easier to kind of break down and have a conversation around it, which is what we do on this podcast. But what they will do is they'll create an index of everything that exists on the platform. It's kind of mind-boggling when you really think about it with how much stuff is out there.
Yeah.
Because platforms like Google, what they'll do is they'll send like spiders or whatever out there to basically look at every single page or every single URL that exists on the web. And they will analyze the copy on it. They'll analyze the keywords, the indexing. They'll analyze the pictures, like what's the hidden data of these pictures, the title of it, what kind of content is it. They don't see it the same way people do, but any sort of content that is on these pages, what links are on there, what references come from it, and they will index it. And from that information that they gather, they will create keywords. So if you have a piece of content that talks a lot about changing strings in the guitars, that recommends different sort of brands of strings to try and which guitars that these strings work for, and yada, 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 and really goes in depth about the process of changing your strings. It will analyze it, look at all the photos. Oh, this is a photo of a guitar. This is a photo of guitar strings like that are linked back to these manufacturers or whatnot, adding legitimacy and variancy to it. But it will take it and it'll categorize it as what it is. And they'll attach keywords to it, such as guitar string replacement or stringing guitars or whatnot. So now that it understands what your content is and it has indexed in a certain portion and it knows what keywords lead to this piece of content, now what happens when someone searches in how to restring a guitar, it looks at its full index of every single piece of content that talks about restringing a guitar and it ranks them. This is where the algorithm comes in. We haven't even talked about the algorithm yet, but this is where the algorithm comes in and ranks them as to what's the most relevant. From there, it looks into relevance, everything we talked about beforehand. Are people talking about it? Is it good, bad? How new is it? Yada. How many links go out? Everything we just talked about. And it decides, okay, this one talks about anything that's important pertaining to this subject that all these other sources that also have these keywords also link to or talk about. So it validates it and it decides from there which one should be risen to the top, what goes to the top of the list to be most beneficial for the person who's researching it. So there's the indexing and then there's the algorithm that decides what to show you first.
Holy shit, that's a lot.
Yes, it is.
That's a ton. And you might think, well, I have no control in that. That's wrong.
Yeah.
You do have control to a certain extent, of course, right? But you might as well use it to your full advantage at this point, right? Because what Sean just said sounds incredibly difficult and very hard to maybe decipher. Well, guess what? You're probably never going to decipher the algorithm in the first place, but all you can do is prep yourself in the best way to hit the algorithm somehow, right? You want to talk about those right now? What factors kind of go into it and see what we can kind of find along the way?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. So we'll start with the on-page versus off-page factors that are really important. On-page factors is basically what you can control within your website and your domain. This can include like keywords, like Sean was saying, usually through good copywriting or blogging, other things like that, right? Posts, whatever you want on your website, right? Good titles, HTML tags, page titles, image optimization, mobile optimization, page speed, the freshness of content that you have on there, because that also is relevant in Google search because they want to see that you're updating it constantly. And just Sean actually told me that a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, that actually makes sense, right? So there are a couple different things that you can do to control within your domain and on how you're seen with these search engines, right? Have anything to add to that one?
No, you
cool.
did a good job.
Cool. Next one is off page, and these you can't necessarily control, although you can sort of, right?
You can influence and encourage.
Exactly. Now, like,
especially as an artist who has a fan base.
Yep, this is where it really comes into play, is having a good dedicated fan base who might post on your behalf, which is great. Might even tag you in posts, which is awesome as well, because it'll all relate back. And I just want to say that a couple of these Examples would be like social media, like kind of what we just alluded to.
Yeah.
Unlinked mentions, like Google My Business, some backlinks to it. Maybe, so in our case, Spotify, right? Spotify is a big one that can relate back to it. Blog posts curated by other people out there, right? Just people talking about you in general and posting it online.
Radio shows, write-ups on your album or your song, podcast appearances or reviews. So if you have a bunch of people reviewing your song or your album for their YouTube channels or the radio show or whatnot, and they link it back to the source of your song that then to Spotify or whatever, and then kicks back to your website, that validates the whole service.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of my experience is with on-page kind of stuff. That's how it took me forever to really optimize my website. And it's still not the best, right? It's really difficult to optimize your website depending on what kind of builder you're using. Sometimes I've seen that you're punished for even using Wix or Squarespace at some point. Google knows what you're using and they have the keys, right? So definitely do your research on seeing like maybe where it's best to build your website and how to build it. Because it took me forever to figure out how to optimize my website to even be mentioned in SEO terms, right? This really goes for like image optimization because I would use a lot of images because that's what it's kind of field we're in, right? Is demonstrating what we do, and it's just really difficult. So, but this will take time. This will take time to get right, and you have to be very patient with it and experiment along the way. So I just want to say that while these factors might be like, oh yeah, that's no big deal, they definitely take a while. Yeah, they take a long while. Yeah, they do. yeah, to get right. So,
so anything else you want to dive into?
That's all I have for
Killer. So let's kind of take everything we've talked about and now kind of flip it and evolve it to how it affects you as an artist and what you can do as an artist. A lot of the examples we talked about were Google. To like find relevant tutorials or certain types of merchandise or things like that. And you might be thinking, this is music, this is art, this doesn't really, no one's going to search up rock t-shirt and have an independent band that is just starting off, have it show up. That's not how it works. It's going to be like AC/DC or your Rolling Stones that you see freaking everywhere because they've been for a long time and they've been validated. Where this does affect you as an artist is any sort of content you are putting out there to grow your fan base and any sort of service you're putting out there or platform to monetarily help support you and your music, which you make music, that's content. For entertainment purposes, if you make behind the scenes, shorts, music videos, any of that is content. And there are tons of ways that you can kind of spread it out there to cover as wide as possible and get you talked about so that people are more likely to find your music. As Brandon was just talking about with off-site sort of information that leads back to SEO is the whole thing of like going for interviews, being featured or being on pages for venues or pages for radio shows or other bands' pages if they're promoting you and they have a kickback to your music based on their website. This is the whole kind of PR situation that goes around it. PR and SEO kind of go hand in hand because a lot of it is based online nowadays. So if you can go out and validate what you are doing through appearing on podcasts or interviews or radio shows or whatever that may be, that first of all, it shows people who listen to those sources for entertainment that you exist and could potentially get fans directly from that source. But what it also does is it validates what you are doing as a whole and makes you more relevant. This is where it could potentially help attach certain keywords to what you're doing, and especially if you embed these keywords in things you're creating, of like new independent artist, new punk artist, or Seattle punk scene, or Ann Arbor punk scene, or whatever. If you can get specific with your keywords and your tags, if someone searches cool punk bands near me, which if they're trying to find new music or whatnot, or look up cool shows near me, well, SEO is like, this band's been doing a lot of stuff. They're tagged at this venue that kicks back to them. So we're going to put this show near the top of the list when they're looking for awesome shows in their relevant information. Especially if, we have the information on what kind of music this person listens to. They listen to a lot of punk. Well, you are tagged in with a lot of punk keywords because that's the band that you like. That's what you do. Your show is going to now show up higher in the list because of all the stuff you've done in the back end, making it more likely for someone to like, yeah, I want to go to a show tonight, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
Oh, this looks interesting. I've never heard of this band before, but it's highly recommended. It's right at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And they'll have their own links they can click on and listen to a little bit of your music and whatnot.
Yep.
But that's really how it benefits you and your music, even though you're not a business or a company page or a website primarily. It all ties together through these relevant keywords.
Yeah. I mean, this is when it goes beyond the music, right? This is now the point of which after you release something that you have to go hit the trail really hard and start doing the PR things, right? Interviews, podcasts, seriously, like anything that you can think of, and getting an online presence out there outside of your music is very important because your music will also benefit from that as well. I've seen theories that even Spotify takes into consideration, well, Google takes into consideration and is able to maybe bump up a song that was just released to an editorial play, not editorial, but algorithmic playlist, right? These things all coincide together. It's no longer just release the music and be fame.
And pray.
Yeah.
And be fame.
Be fame. You know what I'm saying? I was going to say famous, and then I was like,
no, I
Sean
love
might
it.
say something, and I stopped it. So it was stopped thought. Yeah.
That needs to be a shirt. Release music, be fame.
Dude, that's actually a good shirt. That's good shirt.
Oh, man.
Well, now we have some SEO to do when we release our merch. With that
Exactly.
exact shirt. So
That we'll do eventually,
But I
maybe.
mean, you make a good point, though, because there are casual music fans out there that will be free on a Friday night that want to go to a concert, and they'll search shows near me, right? Concerts near me. And being filtered to the top of the list on that might get you an extra fan you never thought of before, right?
Yeah.
Of course, this might be a small majority or a small minority of people, right? But it's still one more than you didn't have yesterday.
And it's the law of compounding because now
Exactly.
one more person can tell another person, or you become a leader for your band, or they add you to their playlist that other people follow, or it's just the dominoes can keep falling.
Yep. And you can do experiments yourself. Restaurants near me. Now, sometimes that is based on geographical location, but a lot of the time it will still shoot up the most popular places around you that are searched for. Right?
There are times where it shows a restaurant 2 miles away before one that's literally around the corner because it's got more reviews, it's more popular, and Google also knows that maybe I've searched good Thai places more than I've searched good Chinese, so it shows the Thai restaurant above the Chinese restaurant for my search, these hypotheticals, because it knows that me as a person, information it has on me, this is a more relevant and valuable search result. So what can you do? What can you start looking into to take advantage of this, or at least know that you're kind of on the right track and implementing things into your content that are the right things?
Yeah.
The first thing you can start looking at is keyword research.
And that's probably the lowest hanging fruit out of all this is keyword research, without a doubt. And there are tools out there that will help you do this and meter. And then you can look up what's searched on Google as well and what's popular. Because like Sean was saying, let's go back to the guitar strings example, right? How would you search for guitar, or looking up how to change your guitar strings on Google? How to change guitar strings? And what was the other one that you used? It was like a string change on guitar or something, right? There's a multitude of ways to search this one thing, right? And Google knows that, right? But how do you filter it so you can be the most relevant search for the most common way to be searched, right? And Sean was talking about the keywords, and that's where keyword research comes into.
Yeah. And there are paid and free tools that exist out there. As you
Absolutely.
mentioned, there's plenty of tools that can help give you kind of a peek behind the curtain of what are other people using, what is relevant, what is there a lot of, and what is there a little bit of. In fact, and sometimes that's where your own strategy kind of comes into it. You can either go for these big keywords that everybody's using because they're popular, but then you have more competition, or you can go for these more niche keywords that make it so you're more likely to pop up if someone searches in that exact type of phrase, which is where really having an identified target fan or target audience helps you pick these niche keywords, so that way when you know a specific kind of person looks this up, you will be one of the results. And there more likely be a true fan, a supportive fan, because they have found you through a specific avenue that you've optimized for that only applies to that kind of person.
Exactly.
That you know likes your music and the kind of stuff you are creating.
Yep. I want to add on to that these tools are readily available to you, most likely. Google My Business, I know for sure, has the keyword feature on there, and it'll actually give you monthly updates with like, oh, this was searched so many times, and this is where you appeared, or are like this word was searched and this is where you appeared. And it'll show you exact numbers on what to do. Now, if you have like a Google panel, I think that's what they call it for artists, right? You can claim your Google knowledge panel. I don't know if it shows you the same information. That would be really good to know. And I'd definitely be curious. So if you do know, let me know, please. But I assume that they would have something similar to that if you're able to customize like your SEO keyword searches. But I don't know for sure. But you do have the ability to control this to a varying degree.
This is the downside of us being more of a conversational podcast, is we can only prepare so much.
Yeah,
and then through
yeah.
conversation, we think of other things.
Right.
Like, I don't know if it does that.
Yeah, because like I'm thinking, because I don't have a knowledge panel because I don't have music out there, so I wouldn't need one, right?
Yeah.
But I do have a Google My Business. So do you have music out? Have you claimed your knowledge panel yet?
I'm not yet.
Okay,
No.
I'd be curious to see. I'd be curious to see if it
Once
does.
again, the conversation, like, I've done all this research and that didn't pop up for me.
Totally,
Yeah.
yeah.
So once again, this conversational base used as a stepping stone, and we'll have some links that we're going to tie into this to be SEO friendly ourselves that go to resources that you can use to create and like more SEO focused content, or to edit your old content to be more applicable to it.
Absolutely.
Talking about content where SEO is important and using these keywords, it's not just your music. I just want to real quick say this includes optimizing your merch store, optimizing your website, your social media pages, your any like playlists or things that you are on if you've interviewed another band or shows you're performing at. Whatever it may be, implementing these kinds of keywords is important all across the board, all along the way. It can be kind of overwhelming, but after a while, you will sort of learn what kind of words and language is specific to you and your fans and the genre that you're in, and then you'll just kind of passively add them in because it's part of the lingo that people will use to search for you and that you use just to talk yourself.
Yeah, exactly. This will take time. It'll take time. You won't be able to get it all in one shot if you sit down on a Friday afternoon and try to do this, right? And trust me, when you sit down to think of keywords, you're going to have a hell of a time because like all of a sudden your mind goes blank. You're like, what do people actually search for? And then you just start typing random shit in, right? And you reach for the low-hanging fruit at first, and then you work backwards kind of from there. Like, well, how can I maybe niche down a little bit and get seen this sort of way? Or maybe this certain phrase is searched more, or this keyword is searched more than this one. And even if it necessarily isn't a keyword that you might use, any way that you can tie it back to make sure that your keywords are up to date and good to go.
For sure. The other thing that you can start looking at and tackling to be more towards the top on any sort of SEO search engine would be click-through rate. You have to not only optimize the back end, which is the keywords, so that the indexing can find you and the algorithm puts you towards the front. Now you have to optimize for the humans.
No. Are you saying that we have to be interesting?
They actually have to click on you when you show up. If they put you at the top of the list and people scroll past you and click on the one below you, that's not a high click-through rate. What you've done isn't appealing for people who it shows it to. Now, this may be a problem in wrong keywords or showing it to a wrong fan, but big part of it is the click-through rate. This is where titles and thumbnails really come to play. Thumbnails on YouTube is a huge thing, and it's like its own art. It takes a while to not only nail in your style, but make sure what you're showcasing is easy to understand. A couple of words that are like, yep, I get this. I'm interested in it or not. To qualify and disqualify potential leads. To go into business terminology of it. But it has to be eye-catching, intriguing, and make someone want to take that next step to dive into whatever the content is and not just keep scrolling and keep scrolling. Now on social media platforms where it's short form video, that's like the first 6 seconds. Can I grab their attention within the first 6 seconds? In places like Google or YouTube, that's the thumbnail or it's the title. So what I'm putting together that I'm going to link in this episode is a downloadable PDF of 5 title templates for fan engagement, talking about the different kinds of titles that you can craft to be more intriguing. Just a quick sneak peek. There's the why. So it's like, hey, I did this, and they're intrigued of like, well, why did you do that? And makes them want to take the next step and dive in. There's the story where it's like, this is a really rough, brief synopsis, which I know you've probably clicked on before, where it's like, I can't believe this happened, or we did this in Las Vegas or whatever, where it's like, oh, well, that's interesting. I want to click on it. And there's that promise of diving into it more. Basically, if you misuse it, it's a clickbait title template. But if you use it properly, it's not.
Yeah,
It's only clickbait if what's inside the article isn't representing the title of the article.
Yeah,
so
it's a very delicate line to toe.
It is.
Very delicate. Yeah, because you can easily overuse it and misuse it, and then people won't trust you, and people won't want to click on it, and you'll just be seen as spam and filtered out by people naturally, right?
Yeah.
So there is an art to it, most definitely. Somebody I think that does this really well, I'm just going to plug the YouTube because I watch him all the time. His name's Caleb Hammer. He's actually from Michigan, but he does like financial audits with people, so it's do people's... Oh my God, he's great. He's great. Would love to meet him one day and not go through my finances though, because that'd be terrible. But he does these like titles and thumbnails really well, and they're super like intriguing and engaging. But like I also notice sometimes he'll change them too. So if the video's out for 8 hours, he'll change it, right? And then they'll start experimenting with that, and it's just really cool. And like I'm just kind of demonstrating here that there's an art to this, and just pay attention to what makes you click and try to implement it as best as you can into your music. That's the hardest part, right? Because like, sure, the financial stuff, like for Caleb's like channel, is very intriguing. Like other people want to compare themselves to what other people are doing and maybe validate themselves with how good they're feeling. So they're gonna click on it. And not only that, the titles are very clickbaity, but they're funny clickbaity and done on purpose, and over exaggerated on purpose, which is awesome. So it makes
they still relate to the video.
Exactly. Now, if you're doing it for like a music video for yourself, a little tougher to navigate, but you can still make it eye-catching and appealing. That's the part that we're kind of going for, right?
Yes.
And if you can make it unique and funny, by all means, to get people in there. But just make sure it's on brand for what you do and maybe matches your guys' personalities, right?
And a great way to quickly find what works and what doesn't, and also when you do have like more success and know what works, try new things and see if anything works better, is the whole concept of A/B testing. There are platforms you can pay for, services that do A/B testing inside of YouTube. There are some website builders and whatnot, or services that can do A/B testing for blog posts where one has a different title than the other one has different pictures than the other one has a different thumbnail than the other one, and it will tell you, hey, this one gets 60% of, like, we've got this many views, this one has 60% of the views, this one has 40% of the views, this one's more successful, and then you can just kind of lean into that and lean into that style to learn more about promoting.
Or you can take that one and use it as A and then do another one that's B again and retest it and just keep going from there. Just run constant tests until you're blue in the face. Seriously, I know there are people that do it, and there are people that's their job to do.
That's what Mr. Beast did when he started off.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, just a bunch of like just A/Bing, testing shit out. I don't watch his content, but I've watched his interviews about him. It seems crazy what he does, but there's some good basic information about like
totally
really playing the game. And this is all about playing that game.
Exactly. I do want to ask you, if you know this, does YouTube allow for A/B testing with thumbnails and stuff?
So I don't believe it does natively. I've never interacted with a channel that's large enough that would potentially unlock that feature if it is a native feature, but there are other websites and companies that do have A/B testing on YouTube with their thumbnails.
Gotcha.
And that might be why you see the thumbnail change all of a sudden.
Because I do notice it. I swear to God, I'm onto you, Caleb.
Yep.
I know it changes.
Because you were given the other version and then it changes later on.
Yep. 100%. So that's actually, it's good to know. It's good to know. I'm going to keep that in my back pocket and maybe ask somebody if I come across a YouTuber.
If I see a YouTuber in the wild, I'll ask about their thumbnail.
Yep. So like half the battle is the click-through rate. The other half of the battle is getting people to stay on and watch your content, because that also matters. And that'll also boost your SEO within search engines. If you've noticed, there's been an influx of YouTubers out there. If you scour YouTube like I do during lunch and you have to watch something because you need the dopamine rush while you're eating lunch, I get it. I'm there with you guys. If you've noticed, though, YouTubers have been very vocal about, hey, I noticed that a percentage of you aren't subscribed, or I noticed that only some of you stay for like 2 minutes, right? Like, I need you guys to engage more. I need you guys to subscribe or something, right? But they've been very vocal about it within the videos.
Oh, yeah, the subscription segment. Like, you should just like and subscribe this video. Only 80% of you, 80% of you aren't subscribed, so make sure you are.
Exactly. And that all has to do with trying to trigger the algorithm. I know the algorithm is kind of like a umbrella catch-all buzzword kind of thing these days, but it's true. They're trying to boost their SEO so they can be seen by more people and be able to do this for longer, because they're able to make more money off of it and have a sustained living doing these YouTube channels.
Speaking of, you should like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube.
Shameless
and follow us
plug.
if you're on Spotify or any other sort of platform. And support us. Thank you.
Shameless plug.
Shameless.
Smash that like button. No, just kidding.
Oh, man.
I miss those days because they don't say that. Like a lot
No,
of
they
YouTubers
don't.
don't say that anymore. Those were good 2015, 2016 days. Man.
For a while, some of them were getting kind of like aggressive for
They
like,
were.
the lulls of it.
Yeah, they were.
Curb stomp that like button.
Exactly. Come
Shank
up with
the subscribe
brutal
button.
ways.
It's like, Jesus.
Waterboard the subscribe button. Like, damn, dude. That poor subscribe button. But seriously, like the other half of the battle is keeping people engaged in staying on your videos. So that way the click off rate isn't super extensive or the bounce rate isn't super extensive. And that includes your website as well. And you'll be able to see that in your website analytics as well, which kind of leads me to like our next point on what you can do is other than making sure your content is good and fresh and relevant to you and your fans is just by optimizing your website and optimizing your opportunities as well outside. We had talked about that, the PR runs and everything like that, making sure that you're getting good blogs written about you, even if you're sending information to blogs for them to post, like just make sure you have a few different write-ups going on, like anything you can do to kind of like spread your online presence out there will help bolster SEO or yeah, SEO. I thought I said CEO again because like now I'm struggling. It will help though. It will help. And if you have control over your website, then you need to make sure that you're taking these steps to make sure that everything is optimized and everything is up to snuff with your brand at this point. And making sure that you have good keywords, making sure you have good copyright, good image quality, but also make sure that they're optimized for speeds and everything like that. A lot goes into it. So if you're not a website person, then definitely hire somebody, but just know that's an extra expense. So if you want to become a website person, you can do it fairly quickly and get started pretty fast.
Yeah.
Beyond the basics and maybe even some intermediate stuff, they might have to consult a professional about it.
Yeah, you're either going to pay in time to get it right or you're going to pay in money to get someone to do it right for you, which is basically just how it all works from the beginning. So yeah, there's that. And it kind of relates back to the episode we did 2 episodes ago about spring cleaning, things that you should be going through or could be going through on a consistent basis to update, keep fresh, to really optimize the services that are out there and play the game.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a tough battle. It's a tough battle.
The battle for relevancy
Yeah.
in a world where everything is connected.
Yeah.
And you can get forgotten in a second.
Yep.
It's because there's so much more that's out there to take the place. It's amazing, but also horrifying.
It is.
At the same time.
It is. It's a constant battle. It's a constant battle. And like you said, the fight for attention has never been greater. And now with the introduction of AI, it's going to get a little bit more complicated. But if you can use AI to your advantage, it kind of levels the playing field a little bit more. So, but that's if you use it to your advantage and if you're not afraid of it. So you have to be willing to take on AI at some point. But that's a whole nother conversation for a different day though.
Yep.
But yeah, it's an extremely tough battle and it's a never ending battle and you're always playing by somebody else's rules in this case. Always. Good luck.
Good luck out there. Well, that's basically all I have for the introduction to SEO.
Yep,
Is there anything
same.
else you want to add about
Nope,
this?
that's about it for me too.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for joining us in the kitchen for this episode as we finally dove in on SEO. Hopefully have a better understanding about what it is and how it can help you on your independent artist journey to making it a living, making it a career. Hopefully this was very helpful information in this episode for you. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave us a comment. Engage with us so SEO is happy with it. Either leave a comment, DM us, or email us at podcast@musicmakerscookbook.com with any of your questions, inquiries, or whatnot. If you want to see more of us, we're on pretty much every social media platform except for X at, I want to say Twitter. I say Twitter so bad.
It's ridiculous.
But we're pretty much everywhere at Music Makers Cookbook. So you can find us there. Once again, follow us, like us, all that helps us out. And once again, I mentioned I have the resource for the 5 title templates you can use. That's going to be here, as well as other resources, such as a direct SEO starter guide published by Google that you can look at to really dive into more of the details of what you can do when starting off. So that's going to be in the description for this podcast episode. Besides that, if you want to work with Brandon, how can they find you, Brandon?
Well, you can either go to my website at studio222recording.com or you can Google me, Studio222Recording, because I'd like to be pushed to the top of the algorithm a little bit, please, and thank you. So if you want to Google me, that's totally cool. You can go on my website, request a form. You can listen to my portfolio and see if we're the best match for each other. I like working on all different types of music. I don't really care. Music and audio is just fun for me. So whatever kind of artist you are, feel free to reach out. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible through email. Or if you don't do that sort of thing, you can try to reach out to me via Instagram at Studio222 Recording or at _Brandon McLeod. You can find me on Facebook, but I don't really go on there all that much, and I don't have a Twitter. So, or no, an X. I don't have a Twitter either, technically, then. So, yeah. But Sean, where can more people find you and maybe discover you through SEO?
Yeah, if you're an independent artist who does folk, rock, or acoustic style music that you need some remote mixing and mastering done, or if you want some independent one-on-one coaching for making a living in the industry, basically this podcast, but more broken down and specified to you and your career to help you move along at a faster pace. Those are both things that I offer at swsrecordings.com. You can fill out a form, reach out to me, schedule a call, whatever it may be. And if you want to make some music together, that's the way to do it. You can also find me at SWS Recordings on any sort of platform out there at SWS Recordings.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Google them too.
Google it.
Good SEO. Good SEO.
So yeah, that's the obligatory plug that we all have to make at the end.
Yeah, we have to. We have to. And we already made our obligatory smash the like button and hit the subscribe button and waterboard it and kill it and whatever. So we had to do this ending part.
Yes, we did.
Have to.
Yep. A little bit tamer than that.
It was a little tamer than that. We did go pretty hard.
We should have been like saute that like button. Steam up the subscribe button.
It's not bad.
Flambe the
Flambe.
Stuff that follow button.
Okay.
That's going to be a gift. Anyways, thank you for watching us. Thank you for joining us in our kitchen. With that all being said,
Bon appetit.